Okay, so we'll start with the guys online, give them 10 minutes, and then we'll then come to the play session here on the floor. Guys online, can you hear me?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right,
we
cool.
can.
Thank you. Right, welcome to grand final of the Vodacom URC. The Vodacom Bulls side that will take on Glasgow Warriors is as follows. Gerard Stenenkamp at 1, Johan Grobler at 2, Wilkolo at 3, Ruan Vermaak at 4, Ruan Nokia captains the side at 5, Marco van Staden at 6, Aldrich Low at 7, Cameron Hanekom at 8. At the back, Emrose Papier at 9, Johan Hussein at 10, Ketley Arendse returns at 11, Harold Foster and David Krill at 12 and 13 respectively, with Sergio Peterson on the right and Devon Williams at full back. The Impact squad sees Aka van der Merwe at 16, Simpiwe Matanzima at 17, Francois Klopper at 18, Reinhard Ludwig at 19, Nizamka at 20, Zach Berger comes into the squad at 21, and Chris Smith and Cornell Smith form 22 and 23 respectively. MW, you happy? The only two changes is Ketley at 11 and Zach Berger at 21. Cool. Anemi?
Actually, not yet today.
Yes.
Oh,
Hi, I'm online.
Yeah,
Okay.
disappointed you couldn't make it in person, Anemi?
I'm sorry, it's just a hectic week this week.
Please.
Jake, first of all, it's a big day, big weekend. You've been there, you've done that. I mean, you've had some very big games in your life. What is your message to your players? And you do have senior players there with lots of experience, but it's also a team filled with very young players. What is your message to them?
and I mean, the most important message for me was let's just do what we did last week. I mean, that's, there's no more they can do. I think last week they showed when they played and the way they played and the things they did were good enough to beat a team like Leinster that have been in 3 European Cup finals. So, yeah, there's no secret remedy. It's a final, and you just got to do the things that you've been doing well, and especially what you did last week. I mean, for me, that was outstanding. And we got we've had lots of guys come in. Bakkies Butchers come in, had a chat to them. Bakkies has won European Cup 3-time Super Rugby, French Championships, Tri-Nations, British Irish Lions. And when you talk to all of them, Tace Lawrence was here today. Tace Lawrence won, I think, 7 out of 8 Currie Cups as a captain. And the message is always the same, Anemi. Just do the things you do well. The rest of the game will look after itself. So, I think that's basically what I'm going to try and push the next 24 hours is we just got to do what we do well, what we've done well the whole year. And that'll be enough. That'll be enough. And I'm not saying that'll be enough for me. That's enough because I think then everyone will understand that we've given it a good go.
Yeah. Just looking at the injuries, how is Willie doing? And just Kurtley as well.
Yeah. So Willie. I mean, I think in the old days, and I know those were the old days. Probably doctor would have asked, "Can you see my 3 fingers?" And he would have said yes, and he would have been available to play. But you can imagine now with protocols and obviously concussion and the fear of head injuries, etc., which I understand. There's no ways we can fast track anything. He failed his HIA. There's an obligatory time that you have to be off. He wants to play. He keeps saying no, he thinks he's fine. But again, that's a great sign for where we are as a group because everyone wants to be part of this final. And Kurtley, Anton Dupont, he had a cheek fracture. Played in a quarter-final of a World Cup against South Africa. Doctor was impressed and really happy with how Kurtley has recovered. I mean, obviously, you can't target anyone's head, and you can't, it's actually illegal to play a guy around his head anyway. So, there's no fear of anything other than the fact that he wants to be part of it. Doctor says he's happy. Specialist says he's happy. And to have him back, especially because we lose a guy like Villy's experience, is fantastic for us.
Thanks, Anime.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, and good luck for this weekend.
Thank you.
Stuart Bathgate.
Thanks, Muna. Hi, Jake. Just following up on what you said about let's just do what we did last week, which is totally understandable given how well your team played. Do you expect Glasgow to offer a different kind of challenge in any way? Will you have to vary your game at all?
Look, I mean, it's a difficult one to answer because I think what's worked for Glasgow is the things they've done well this year have worked for them. I'm not sure whether they would play the same as they have the whole year in a final. Again, it's not for me to decide what they're going to do, but I mean, them attacking like they do, using the pace of what they have. I'm talking about pace of the ball, pace of the breakdown. It's something that they've got a lot of gain out of it. I mean, that's why they have been a successful team as they are. Whether they're going to change that based on the fact it's altitude, whether they're going to change that based on the fact that it's no need to score 4 tries anymore. Remember last time they came here, 4 tries and bonus points, etc., were important because they wanted to finish top of the log. So I look, as I said, it's very difficult for me to think what they're going to do, and that's why I said what I said. What I would like us to do is do what we did well. What I'd like us to do is do the things we can control, and the things that I think that are important for us to win the game is that we focus on ourselves. I don't think we can spend too much time on worrying about what other teams, especially what Glasgow are going to do on the weekend, whether they play the same or don't play the same.
You mentioned that game last month. We've asked your players all week about any relevance that game had. What's your take on it? Do you take anything from that game, or is it totally different, irrelevant now?
Well, the one thing we did take away from that game is that we probably had our foot on their throats. When we dropped the ball, we could have been 40 points up. I don't know if you remember, David Creel went through a hole in the 22, tried to offload, the ball went to the ground. If we scored there, we would have been on 40 points. And I think what we then realised is that Glasgow don't go away. So I think and sometimes as a coach and as a group of players, when you allow them to come back like that, it's probably a good thing for us because we will never go into this game underestimating the fact that that should be one-sided. But I suppose hand in hand with that, it's a completely different fixture altogether. As I said, they needed 4 tries. There was a lot of talk. I'm reminding you of that. Remember that came and they needed to beat the Lions or get 1 point or, get 2 wins. I can't remember what the permutations were, but they needed to get as many points as they could to finish first on the log. And therefore, their mindset would have been completely different as it is in a final, I would think. So the takeouts will be that we won't underestimate them. The takeouts will be that even though we were on top of them for a long period of time, we still had to work hard to finish off that game. And I think that is something which is also going to be good for us as a group because we won't be going in there thinking, that it's, as I said, that it's going to be one-sided.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stuart. James Petit. James? Okay. Graham Bean?
Hi, Jake. There's a strong South African influence in Scottish rugby now. I just wondered, do you see that in the Glasgow team? Do you see that sort of DNA coming through in the way they play?
I probably see more South African DNA in the Edinburgh team. And I don't say that with any disrespect. I think that, with the way that Edinburgh play with VPNL and Skuman and those sort of players, I think that there's more of a South African DNA in the Edinburgh team. The one thing that I do think that Glasgow do differently and as well differently, but at times as well as Edinburgh, is they play very close to the way that Gregor wants to play for Scotland. And I've said it many times. I mean, they have 2 professional sides. They have the least amount of registered rugby players playing in the World Cup, and yet they're competitive like they are. And the reason for that is because sometimes The fact that they don't have so many options to pick means they have a closer knit group. The fact that they both play on 4G pitches now. The fact that they, most of them are always or sometimes involved in the national setup, which means the thinking's the same. I've said it many times to when Mark Dodson was there as CEO. The one thing that they do well is the players can play the same whether they wear Scottish jersey or a provincial jersey. And so it is, I think there's a great mixture. I think there's a lot of DNA, South African DNA. Not that there isn't, we've got Franco and Carl Steyn obviously involved. And now you've got Henko Venter who's also come in. But I would think the DNA of South Africa and the way they play would be probably closer linked to the Edinburgh style. But it's quite nice because when they blend together, they have a successful Scottish team that can basically, pull on the skills of Duan van der Merwe and, Schoeman and, those kind of players. And then they can also fall back on the skill sets of a lot of the Scottish players that are playing for the Scottish national team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Graham McPherson.
Hi, Jake. How are you?
Good, thanks, Graham.
Do you accept that your team are strong favourites to win tomorrow, and were Glasgow to beat you would be a major upset?
We were favourites last week against Leinster as well, so it's something that we're getting used to now. Last week we got told we were favourites, so I think those days of everyone thinking we're underdogs, it's favourites count for nothing. As I said to you last week, people told me that Leinster should be underdogs. But I don't get involved in that. Munster and Leinster are two incredible sides, and Glasgow and the Bulls beat them last weekend, so there should be no reason why. I think the one thing about URC, which has been fantastic since it started, is there's been no guarantee that just because you have certain amount of players or because you ranked higher or because you're seen by the media as the favourites, that there's necessarily a given that you should win the game. So I'm not going to give you a headline story that says, I've said to you that we're the favourites and there's no chance that Glasgow can win. I'm fully aware of the fact that Glasgow played really well last week against Munster, in Munster. Not many teams have beaten Munster. Not even in Munster, but even anywhere. Munster last year won. I think they won 11 games this year on a row as well, and last year they won about 9 in a row to win the competition. So to go and do what Glasgow did last week, I'd probably make them favourites.
I was just going to ask you, did you learn anything new about Glasgow from what you saw last weekend against Munster?
I suppose I don't want to say no, because I think what I did learn is it just reinforced what I've been thinking, is that Glasgow are good enough to win. They're good enough to beat anybody. They came here and they played really well against us. They beat Leinster in the first game of this competition, and I know it was without World Cup players, but still, Glasgow players have gone along and beaten Leinster, which is a massive. Now they've gone and beaten Munster. So I don't think I learnt anything. All I did is reaffirmed that Glasgow are a good team, well coached, got a lot of good players, play a certain style that suits them, and are a difficult team to break down. They scored an 85-meter try on the weekend against Munster. That's not considering they're more than any other team in this competition. And then they go and score an 85-meter try. It tells you that they've got more than one string to their bow.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Can we take David Barnes, and then after David Barnes, James, you can wrap it up for the online session. Thank you.
I'm fine, thank you. The Scottish guys have asked all the questions we need. Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
Cool. James?
Jake, sold out Loftus tomorrow, and the faithfuls answered your call. What sort of impact is the crowd going to make to the team tomorrow?
Have you ever been to Loftus when it's been sold out?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So why do you ask me a question like that?
I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I got a stat here that the last time it was sold out was when the Vodacom Bulls played the Brumbies in 2013, which is 11 years ago. And I'm so chuffed because that's the day I was coaching the Brumbies.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Jake, I wish you all the luck, eh?
Thank you. Thanks so much. We're looking forward to it. I must say, it's, you know, who would have thought, I said it to the boys the other day, who would have thought 4 years ago with COVID that we'd ever be sitting thinking there's a full house at Loftus. I mean, I remember the final in Cape Town. It was still COVID, and I think they could only have 35,000 people in the lower tier. So it's got to definitely be something that is unique.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Good luck for tomorrow.
Thank
Well
you.
done anyway.
Thanks so much, eh? Thank you. Wish you were here, then you'd have one more.